We knock down the doors other cops don't want to. Taking fire from every scumbag in town.
They didn't earn it. I don't feel bad about taking it.
All about bringing force down on the street. Why don't y'all take a look at what you got going on under your own roof?
I never put the money above us.
How long you think that's gonna last?
I don't want Vic in our lives anymore.
You're investigating me?
Vic Mackey beats suspects. He deals drugs. And that's just all in one day. I wonder what he's gonna do tomorrow.
Everybody down!
Hey, my day's just getting started.
Hello, welcome to an episode of Chew the Fat Season 2, The Shield, the best crime drama of all time, in my opinion. Today we're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4 in some detail with a panel of guests. I will be off camera because I'm still ill. So, that may have been slightly exaggerated, but I am still a bit poorly. But nevertheless, I'll have my capable team to help me through. First up, it's none other than the Inside Man.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I'm so pleased to have watched these 2 episodes. I've not long finished them, actually.
Yeah, me too. I watched them again this afternoon, and I've got loads to say about both, but episode 3 especially.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a first-time viewer, as you know, of this series, and and I am taking them, just a couple at a time every week, and they're just getting better and better. I'm enjoying it so much, I can't tell you.
Well, talking of first-timers, it's the Virgin of the North, English bastard.
Hello, you beautiful bastards. I am so glad to be here. Thank you for letting me tag along anyway.
Tagging along. Very good. We also have, complete with new microphone, Darth Plato in the house.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Okay. Still getting a bit of background noise there. Which wasn't there just now. What's going on? So,
Want me to move it?
Might be probably. That's probably better.
Do that.
Yeah, there you go. Now you don't have nothing. That's good. So it always looks like you're trapped between 2 computer screens, like wedged in a little box. But if you need to signal to us that you're being kept prisoner, move your eyebrows in sync or something, so we know to send in a rescue team.
I turned the volume down a little bit. Does that sound better?
Yeah, it's fine. Well, as long as we can hear you clearly, it's all good. Hello to people in the chat. Wormy Spoons is here, and we also have the Proctor File. I think both of these guys joined me last night for the UFO disclosure stream that we did. I don't know if anyone saw it, but another whistleblower came forward, a very credible whistleblower, and they also showed footage from a helicopter retrieving an alien egg object. So check it out. It's on. You can find the footage on YouTube. Very interesting. It's all getting very interesting.
Sounds like Mork and Mindy.
Well, another good thing is President Trump is in favor of disclosure. So I think he's going to see that as part of his legacy. And if he does, that is fine with me. But anyway, let us get back to The Shield. And we're going to be talking about episode 3, season 2 first. This episode is called Partners. And it is, apart from anything, it's the episode that introduces us to Vic's former partner, who is played by none other than Carl Walters. So great to see him in the show, and we'll come back to that. So, despite my cough, let me down another bit of Kraken here. For you kids watching at home, purely for medicinal purposes. I will talk us through the episode as quickly as I can. and then we'll get into our usual categories. So the episode, hang on, that's the wrong bit. Here we go. Yeah, let me scroll down a bit. Sorry, I'm normally a bit more organized. Right, okay. So Partners is directed by Guy Ferland, who currently is directing episodes of SWAT, which also stars some of the cast from The Shield. I'll get stills ready. It's written by Scott Rosenbaum and Shawn Ryan. So the episode opens kind of where we left off with episode 2, with Vic losing his shit, beating the crap out of that guy, and then storming off, leaving the strike team kind of in a state of shock. Meanwhile, we cut back to the barn, and Claudette, being the diligent detective she is beavering through the pieces, putting the cases together about the death of Theo's connections to Vic, and so on. Then we cut to Acevedo, who is hard on his political campaign. He's handing out flyers telling people to vote for him. So he's already kind of focusing on two jobs. He's already focusing on his political office, as well as his job at the barn. Okay, then there's an arm put on Dutch's desk by some Hispanic kid. He's basically giving it in a bag, and he's like, "That's an arm." And then we cut to the titles. It's an arm belonging to a woman. And after the titles, Claudette is talking to Vic, and she says, "Look, Theo's last call was made to you. You said you hadn't spoken to him in months, etc., etc." Vic tries to blag his way out of it. Now, I don't know if anybody spotted, but when we cut to the cage in this episode, one of the people in the cage is the young woman who later becomes Vic's CI and a massive pain in the arse. She's actually in one shot. And I wonder whether she just started out working as a background extra on the show. Maybe they liked her, and that's how she ended up getting a part. But she is in. It's the same actress. I double checked with my freeze frame. So yeah. So Dutch has a little scene with the coroner. Here it is. One thing that comes out from this scene is that it's evident that Dutch has at some point asked this coroner out on a date, and she said no, because she actually says, "See, us dating never would have worked," because he's kind of doing his creepy nerdy thing. So Vic's team are given to Acevedo to work a gay hustler job. So we'll be drawing on Inside Man's experience for background on that later. Dutch interviews, meanwhile, Dutch goes and interviews the roommate of the girl who is missing, whose arm he's retrieved, managed to get an identification from fingerprints. And the roommate says, "I don't want to be a bitch, but like the rent's due next week." So I thought, like, that's a good line. That may be my line of the episode, but I've got a few. But that's definitely a good one. Vic meets up with his PI, played by Mark Rolston. Again, sort of assessing, the situation with Corinne. Vic then goes to see Corinne because he finds out where she is. Tries to be not too confrontational. And if she moves back in, he agrees to move out. So she says she'll think about it. Meanwhile, Dutch and Claudette go and interview the neighbours to see if they saw anything, who live next door to the woman who's missing. And this sort of middle-aged guy and his quite young partner, there they are in the shop. They're being very cooperative. They said they saw a guy. So Dutch asks them to come down to ID some people. And when the middle-aged guy goes to get his coat, we see that the girl is in fact being held hostage in the bathroom. She's chained up, she's alive, and her arm is missing. And that's such a great moment in this episode. I remember when I saw that the first time, I was like, what the fuck? Because they don't seem like the type. Then Vic meets with Joe Clark, his old partner, who we learn left under something of a cloud, costing the department money and was a bit of an embarrassment, played by the amazing Carl Weathers, or Carl Weathers. Of course, he's no longer with us, sadly. What a fantastic actor. I love him in this role. So they go for lunch. During the lunch, Vic reveals he's thinking of quitting. And he's kind of like sounding Clark out about, what's it like? How have you done on your pension and this kind of thing? And Clark is telling him, don't quit. You won't like it. Meanwhile, the neighbours are being interrogated by Dutch and Claudette. They sort of leading them on a bit of they've led them on a bit of a wild goose chase. In the interim, Joe Clark asks to show Vic something. We cut back to Claudette, and she goes and sees Acevedo about Theo. She wants permission to investigate Vic's financial records. We also see the assessor, Janie, again. She's trying to get Claudette on side, and the timing from Dutch is good. He sort of gets her out of her having to talk to her. It's one of the things I like about Claudette's character is, although she's, of all of them, she is incorruptible completely and has the best moral compass, she still doesn't want to talk to the person who wants to get dirt on her colleagues. She would rather not converse with that person because she knows they've got an agenda of their own, so she's not going to side with them. Joe Clark wants Vic to bust the guy who cost him his job. They go and check him out, and because he got $2 million out of the department, he now lives in a pretty big, decent house, and he spots them. He comes out and he's like goading Clark, and he's got, all these nice possessions and electronic gadgets and so on. And Vic's like, yeah, this isn't really right. Meanwhile, minor sort of continuing subplot. Acevedo informs Danny that the shooting, even though it was justified, there's a lawyer involved. It might be going further. And Julian hasn't vouched for her, saying that he wasn't there when she fired the gun and killed the guy. This is in the last episode. Claudette breaks the case for Dutch. And just as the neighbours are leaving with the woman in the boot, they turn up and Dutch gets them to follow them to the station because Claudette finds out that the neighbour, the man, has a previous record for kidnapping a young woman. So meanwhile, Acevedo tells Vic that Claudette has the ledger. He sees Joe Clark in the building. He wants him out of the building. He's a disgraced former police officer. He's not allowed in the barn. The strike team are talking about Joe in the little strike team room. And unfortunately, Vic overhears Shane slagging him off. He drops himself in it. They have a massive confrontation. Shane says, I'm not going to be your whipping boy. He wants out of the team. It's a good scene. And you have a little nice scene with Shane and Danny, because Danny and Shane don't interact that much in this show. They don't have a lot of scenes together, just the two of them. And it's quite nice to have this little scene. And then as a result of Shane finding out that Julian isn't vouching for his partner, he goes and has a pop at Julian. And you're on side with him there. So Shane occasionally does do some good things. Vic, meanwhile, arrests a known affiliate of the guy who got Clark lost his job, a guy called Taylor, for selling stolen merch out the back of his van. It's basically his third strike. So he says, you've got to give us something on this guy. And he says he's got 2 kids at home that need feeding. Vic says, the only thing you have at home is a widescreen TV that you haven't paid for yet, which I thought was another good line. Dutch and Claudette, meanwhile, are interviewing Marcy, who's the young girlfriend of the neighbour Dutch thinks that she's a victim and she's basically been coerced into being involved in the kidnapping and whatever's going on with torturing this girl who Dutch thinks is still alive. They don't get anywhere together, so Dutch goes back in on his own and pushes her to confess. She breaks down crying. Dutch comes out and says he wouldn't have lied to her. Unfortunately, it's going to turn out that he got it all completely wrong. Note also in the background, the toilets, the men's toilets are still broken because they're sealed off with the police tape. Vic brings in the collar, Fleetwood, for fencing. Acevedo gives Claudette the green light to check on Vic's financial records. Vic goes and visits Joe Clark and finds that he's living in poverty, doesn't have any money, and realizes that, you know, this guy's retirement has turned out to be an absolute depressive nightmare. Clark has a great line here where he says, the truth is, the people who we save from the worst day of their lives never get to see ours, meaning never get to see our worst day, which is, I thought was really interesting. Corinne calls Vic, informing him that she's home. At the time he's trying to kind of nail Clark's guy, they realize that the guy is still dealing, and it turns out he's dealing in illegal firearms. They catch him on the spot. There's a shootout. Vic injures one of his guys. He's injured in the process. He tells Joe to leave because he knows that that'll go down really bad with Acevedo. Wounded. He's lying on the floor in front of one of the bad guys. Yeah, this is quite the scene. And he manages to call Shane, and his team rush down there to the scene. Meanwhile, Marcy is kind of back in the interview room and plays Dutch completely. And Dutch releases them. Vic's in the ambulance. He tells Shane to go and stop Joe Clark from killing Fleetwood. So when Claudette realizes that Bob and Marcy have been released, she criticizes Dutch because she believes they're responsible. In the hospital, there's quite an emotional scene where an injured Vic pretends he's not injured so he can briefly see his kids. His daughter's pleased to see him, but his son won't connect with him. The strike team, meanwhile, hit Fleetwood's pad and only find the girlfriend there packing the suitcase. And there's a horrible scene here where she won't give up where Fleetwood is. So Shane locks the other two guys out of the bedroom and basically threatens to rape her. Now, watching that scene, I have to say the bedroom door ain't that strong. So if those guys wanted to, they could have done what they always do, which was kick it open. So that might have been the only flaw with this episode. Shane's line, "You've no idea what you just missed, darling." Another classic. Clark confronts Fleetwood as he's trying to skip time. They're in the middle of fighting when Shane arrives and just manages to stop Fleetwood from getting the drop on him. Dutch realizes when they go to search the couple's flat, who have now disappeared, that there's a spy hole that looks into the bathroom of the adjacent flat. Quite a funny moment where, yeah, that's the shot I was about to say. He looks through and there's a female police officer. I actually thought she was on the loo for a second there, but she gives Dutch that look. It's quite funny. So they put out an APB and Marcy and her boyfriend are arrested. And then they find that the body's in the trunk. And when Dutch says, "Why didn't you tell me, Marcy?" she just looks at him sweetly and goes, "Sorry, Daddy." That's a classic moment where Dutch completely realizes he's fucked up. He totally misread the situation. He was too confident. He got too cocky, and he got played, most of all, by a narcissistic psychopath. Shane and Vic make up in the hospital. There's a nice conversation about them going to play golf together when they retire. And Shane's like, "I don't know how to play golf." And Vic says, "Look, I'll teach you." And he says, "I look forward to that." So they've kind of made up. And then the episode finishes with a montage, which includes Claudette doing her paperwork still to try and trace the trail to Vic and Dutch having a bit of a hissy fit in the toilet because he realizes how badly he fucked up, and actually his mistakes probably led to the death of the girl who was still alive when she got put in the car. So that's episode 3. I'm going to say off the bat, this is one of my favorite episodes that we've reviewed. We're going to discuss so far. From what I can remember, this is one of my favorite episodes of the show, full stop. I think it's there's no fat. All of the subplot stuff, even the stuff with Julian and Danny, is all good. It's totally necessary. There's no padding in this episode. I struggled to find padding. Apart from, stuff with the door aside when they're trying to break open the door, which I kind of thought was bullshit. But that aside, I think it's the perfect episode. It's going to get a very high score from me, but we won't do those. We won't do scores until the end. But Guy Ferland did a really good job directing it. Writing's really tight. And I also really like all the performances of the guest actors. So go to each one of my panel now, just give you a minute or two, just to sort of your overall thoughts on this episode. And then we'll get into our usual sections. Inside Man first.
Well, I've got to agree. This is actually my favorite episode. And you're absolutely spot on exactly what you said. There's no fat on this. There's no padding. There's nothing that doesn't belong. Whereas in other episodes that have preceded this, I have found that there has been a little bit of fluff maybe added in order to stretch things out somewhat. But there's nothing that isn't required. Everything is there. We do have the A that leads to B that leads to C, and so on and so on and so on. We don't have anything that sort of sidetracks us within any of those plot lines, and it really comes together extremely well. I think the acting in this was incredible. The writing was just spot on. I mean, really good. The direction was superb. And it gripped me so much, this episode. I was so pumped watching this episode because there were so many situations that you wanted to see the resolution of, or at least some kind of progress of. So many little bits and pieces that every time we got to a certain point, then it sort of drifted back a little bit. So it sort of, the resolution took a few more steps back. So we had to work a little bit harder to get to that resolution. And every time we took the step forward, it stepped back again. So it was almost felt like the resolutions were unattainable until they were attainable. But a brilliant episode. Just my absolute favorite thus far.
Wow. Right. Yeah. Okay. High praise indeed. Northern.
Yeah, it does throw a few good twists. Even though I kind of knew that couple was hiding something, it was still kind of a surprise just to see that girl in the bathroom when it's revealed. It's very dark, and it almost did get me a little bit of a dark laugh just for how.
It's a masterstroke of good writing to actually let the audience know that she's there, which on a normal cop show you wouldn't get that information until later.
And I do like the relationship between Vic and Cal Weathers. I mean, and Cal Weathers really knocks out the park here. You really feel for this guy. I mean, he's obviously got some regrets. He's obviously done some bad stuff, and he does kind of like he does sort of ponder if he has gone too far, but at the same time, he's like, sometimes we've got to do what we've got to do, and you can really tell he means a lot to Vic. He feels like
mentor. He's his mentor, isn't he?
Yeah, because he almost comes across like a kid in comparison to him, doesn't he? He's like a guy who just idolized this guy, and now he's seen him as this former shell of himself, and we get to see just how messed up Shane can be a little bit as well. I mean, I don't know, even if it's just a threat. I mean, doing that is kind of messed up. That is really messed up.
Oh yeah, the whole thing in the grape sequence, we'll call it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
once
that was
again, see
very
Double
disarming.
H Pounder knocks out the park as Claudette. You can really see she's determined as well. She's really determined after what happened last time, you know, because she's really proven to be a potential thorn in Vic's side, and she, once again, like you said, she is a very moral person. She's not sanctimonious either. She's just a little bit. She's always kind of kept herself to herself, and she realizes like the job isn't always easy, and sometimes rules can be bended. But she's been trying to do the job as honestly as she can, and not poke her nose in people's business.
Mm.
But apart from that, it's a very good dark episode, and I felt really sorry for Dutch, even though he he's the one who got cocky. He got really way too confident.
Yeah, he brought it upon himself in a way. Great
Yeah.
stuff.
I think that's the only flaw as well, because it does feel like he hasn't kind of learned from the first series a little bit, though.
No, he's a character. It's a character with many flaws. Darth, time to test your new microphone.
Well, I just said the name of the episode, Partners. Knows how everything in this episode dealt with in partners. Danny and Julian and Vic with Shane and with Joe. So he's kind of double dipping there with partners.
Yeah.
You have the two. Whatever his name is.
Serial killers who are technically also partners.
Marcy and the older guy.
Yeah.
They're partners too. And notice you made the observation about the door, like they could have just broken down the door. Yeah, I didn't think about that when I watched the episodes. I appreciate that observation, but I got one of my own. That is, what were they doing in the apartment later in the episode? What would be the cause for the warrant to go into the episode? They didn't really explain that. I don't know what evidence they would be citing that they would get that warrant. On the one hand, that kind of scratched my head a bit. And also earlier in the episode when Vic says, when they're talking about the ledger, because they bring the topic of the ledger back in from the previous episode, and Vic just, forget the ledger. That seems a bit of a reversal because he put great emphasis in the previous episode to burn this damn thing. They went through a lot of effort to explain that, and now he doesn't seem to care. I thought that needed a little more explaining. Also, notice how the interaction with Shane and Vic. And Vic's told, "Oh, Shane didn't cover for you." And then he turns around and he talks to Danny and goes, "Oh, Julie didn't cover for you." And then he goes and talks to Julian, laying down you got to cover for your partner, when he himself didn't cover for his partner.
Well, he is a hypocrite on many an occasion, so that is in keeping with his character.
Yeah. My overall, I can start this episode with one thing. This is the best episode since Dragon Chasers, and I think it's an inversion of Dragon Chasers. So instead of Dutch with Michael Kelly's character, what was his name? Sean Taylor, Michael Kelly's character. So it's kind of an inversion of that. So Dutch was able to play the man and get the guy in the end, but this time around it's turned against him.
Yeah.
My thoughts.
Very good. Tox.
Yeah, it's a good tight episode, and I like that it opens up a lot of threads that we're going to see later on, even characters that are going to get to come back. It was my first time seeing Melanie Linsky, who plays the psychotic killer, who's actually the real, or at least as guilty as the dude, the I'm sorry daddy.
No, she's the more psychotic of the two. You can tell.
I agree.
In that last scene, absolutely. Yeah.
That was a running joke in our house with me and my ex-wife, who used to watch this, who was also a soldier. And anytime she did something that was like spending money she shouldn't have spent, or did something, whatever, it was always, "I'm sorry, Daddy." She would hit me with that. So it's kind of a running joke in our family. Yeah. So it's great. I agree with everything everyone said so far. It's a really tight episode. There's not a lot of wasted effort, but it also sets up how Dutch can get too up his own butthole and make really bad tactical errors. It shows we see this kind of foreshadowing of what, I guess every cop is afraid is going to happen to them, that they're going to lose some massive lawsuit. Although with qualified immunity, I'm not really sure how that works, but whatever. How they're going to lose some kind of massive lawsuit and then wind up, penniless and just for doing the job that they think they should be doing and whatnot. I like that. R.I.P. Carl Weathers. I really would have liked to have seen more of him. I think this is the one-off. I don't think he appears again in the show.
I think he comes back.
Does he?
I think he's in one other.
I know.
I might be wrong, but
yeah, he is.
No, I mean, I know the prequel episode that's going to be coming up pretty soon that shows. I think they call it Co-Pilot. I know he's mentioned.
Pre-pilot. It's called, I think.
I thought it was called Co-Pilot, but regardless, I know he's mentioned in that, but I don't know for a fact that he actually shows up. I can look it up later and get back to you. But
Darth, you were saying you remember?
Yeah, he is in 2 episodes. He doesn't show up again until some seasons later.
Oh, he does show up again.
Yeah. Okay. No, I know he shows up again because I know that there are scenes with him that we haven't seen yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
awesome.
he does come back.
Awesome. But yeah, it's great seeing him pop in. I like the juxtaposition between Vic and him. He was Vic's TO, his training officer, and I like what it says about that whole line. And I remember they used it in the trailer for the show was him thinking about what he did to Armadillo, and he's like, you ever go too far? And he's like, yeah, sometimes. And so Vic's starting to think, and this is the motivation that we're going to see later on in his Vic's big retirement plan or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So,
all right, thank you very
great
much.
episode. Yeah, great episode.
Okay, we're gonna get into the cast now. First of all, we're going to talk about the supporting cast first. You got 2 heavyweights here on screen now. Melanie Linsky, who plays Myra, is particularly good in this episode. And of course, you also have Carl Weathers as well. There's a couple of other actors that I want to give a shout out to who are also very good. I think this is Sandra Santiago. She's only got one scene, but does a pretty good job with that scene. This actor has been in quite a few things. Who plays the bad guy Fleetwood, Garland Witt. His name is. Here he is now. So, damn, like born 1 year before me. So he's got 34 acting credits, 2 of them in 2022 in the TV series called Mike. So I think he is still going and probably doing a lot of theatre, like a lot of these people. Daniil Ortiz, who plays LaTonya, that's the flatmate. This is her now, who talks about the rent being due. She's still very much a jobbing actress. She had a good part in the TV series Insecure, which I'm a big fan of, actually. So good to see.
What is that, Lance? What's Insecure? What is that?
It's started off as a podcast that was done on YouTube.
Is that with Issa Rae?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know it for HBO.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know it.
Half-hour comedy show aimed predominantly at an African American audience, but I really liked it. And of course, it's set in LA, so there's a lot of stuff about working in the industry and all of those kind of tropes. So there's a lot of good stuff in it. We've also got Lucinda Jenny back again as Lainey. She's very good. And as we said already, Carl Weathers, late great Carl Weathers as well. So it's not an easy one to pick out who is your fave guest. And I mean, for me, it's got to be between Carl Weathers and Melanie Linsky, because I mean, they're the 2 really significant guest actors. I mean, the actor that plays the boyfriend I have to say he's pretty good as well. I think that's Mark Van. Yeah, this guy. He's pretty good.
He seems very familiar, but I can't place what else
He's been in.
seen.
Yeah, he's been in loads of things. He was in U.S. Marshals, so you might have seen him in that. CSI, Criminal Minds. Yeah, the movie. Yeah, played one of the key deputy guys involved in the hunt. Autumn Chiklis is in this episode as well, playing Michael Chiklis's own daughter. That's his real daughter.
Yep.
So I think it's the first time she's played that role. I don't know if she played it in season 1. Was it a younger actress? I can't remember.
Same one.
No. It was her. It was her, wasn't it?
I named my daughter after her character.
Wow. There you go. So, yeah, for me, it's a toss-up between Carl and Melanie. But so when I look at that, I look at the acting and I look at what the actors have done with the role. I have to give it to Melanie Linsky for me. Superb job. Really, really mined that role for a lot of nuance, and she built quite a lot into that character. And then when she flips it, it's great. And especially her face in the final scene. She is very much still working. 99 credits, not surprising. Yellow Jackets being a very prominent role. I only saw a couple of episodes of that and I didn't really get into it, but she also had a really big role in Don't Look Up. That was okay. And yeah, that's right. Miss America, that's a really good miniseries. She had a great part in that, which I also saw. So yeah, she's my pick for guest actor of the week. Inside Man.
I can only go for Carl Weathers, to be honest with you. I think it was the way his character was written and the way he acted it. You felt his past pretty quickly. He felt like he was an established character that you already knew.
Yeah, I agree that he did that very well. Actually.
Yeah, it didn't take long for, and the dialogue wasn't particularly on the nose either in order to get us to that point. I think, the interaction between his character and Vic, I just felt like he'd been there all along, somewhere in the distant past, and I just hadn't, it almost felt like, oh yeah, him and Vic used to be partners, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. It was that. It was almost like in a history, some kind of misted history that I've conjured up, and it made me feel like that. It kind of made me feel like I'd actually, as an audience member watching it, conjured up the history myself. The background. That's how it felt, and I just felt he slotted in absolutely perfectly. But bless him, he's a terrific actor, and I loved him in it. I really, really loved him in it.
Yeah, you could really sort of sense the whole history between him and Vic, and he conveyed that with not a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, good point, well made. Northern.
It was the difficult choice between Melanie Linsky.
I know it's not an easy
was.
They're both very good.
Yeah, because she does play the psychopath pretty well. I mean, there's just no emotion there whatsoever with what she just did. But it has to be Carl Weathers, though. It has. The guy's just got so much gravitas, and he does give a lot more context to Vic as well. He sort of fleshes him out a little bit more. He gives you more into a hint of the character while at the same time establishing who he is within seconds.
Yeah,
and that's a good actor who can do that, without being a big exposition dump.
Yeah.
Good. No, good. Yeah, Darth.
Well, if there's ever been a time where there was a tie between two choices, this would be it. But if I have to choose one,
you do.
I'm gonna have to go with Mercy. Now, I'll explain this for a second. Now, Inside Man and Northern, you're making great points about Carl Weathers. I can't argue against it. Can't gainsay it. But the reason I'm going to go with Mercy here is because in the end, it happened. It unfolded in a way that I didn't anticipate. I wasn't expecting that, and
Right.
so and it was so like whoa, what an awful gal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just can't walk away from that. And I don't know how to say it. That was really the moment where I thought, yeah, that's it. That was a great portrayal of someone you would never want to meet.
Well, yeah, good warning sign for you. Keep an eye out for those people in future. Toxic.
No disrespect to the late great Carl Weathers, but I got to give it to Melanie Lynskey. Like I said, this was my first seeing her in anything, although I'm aware she was doing stuff before this. She sort of parlayed this role into a couple different versions of the same character of Marcy. Later, she plays a comedic version of it on 2.5 Men. But then even later than that, and currently she's playing a variation on this in Yellow Jackets, and I find her just really engaging in everything that she does. I was shocked to find out that she was a Kiwi, because she does an American accent so well, and I love that. I love when I'm
check out Heavenly Creatures with her and Kate Winslet. She's she's nuts in that film.
Yeah.
Oh, is she the second across Kate Winslet in that movie?
I think she is, if I remember correctly.
God damn.
He's right.
You know what? I completely forgot that.
Yeah.
Good shout. Yeah. Okay. So those are our picks for Best Supporting Actor this week. But who is your favorite choice this week for the lead cast? Also not easy. I mean, you're really picking from Chiklis, Walton Goggins, Jay Carnes, Benito Martinez, and CCH Pounder, because Michael Jason, Catherine Dent are not in the episode long enough for them to be picked, I would say, arguably. You'll have to put a good case forward if you are going to pick one of them. For me, I've got to go with Jay Carnes on this episode, because, I mean, Dutch unfortunately gets torn a new arsehole by the end of it. And he's got loads of problems. He's got some serious psychological self-doubt stuff. And it's all the stuff from the episode where the guy read him. You remember in the interrogation room, he gave his reading on Dutch. You can see that all of the stuff, and then we had that moment where he got really upset and he's crying in his car because he knows the guy read him so well. And all of those fears, all of those insecurities are all in this episode. And he plays off them. I feel like he knows this character so well. He's such a believable character for me. And I like what Jay Carnes does with him. And you do feel sorry for him sometimes, but in the same episode, in the very next scene, you can be so annoyed with him, you want to slap him. And that's the nature of the relationship between him and Claudette. And I like the moment where she offers to take him for dinner at the end. And he turns it down, his head down. He says, I can't even look her in the eye. I'm not hungry and whatnot. But yeah, so for me, it's his episode, and not to... Michael Chiklis, amazing job getting shot. All of the hospital stuff with him is great. Benito Martinez is good. But I'm going to talk about him more in episode 4. So yeah, for me, it's Dutch's Inside Man.
I mean, I can't disagree with everything you're saying about Jay Carnes, because he played this just so... this character has been played so brilliantly. But the way this episode for this character has been written, we see his this overconfidence in his ability. He suddenly realizes, there is almost a realization at the end where he realizes that maybe he's not necessarily as good as he actually believes himself to be. And I love that about this episode and this character. But I loved Benito Martinez in this, and I got to give it to Chiklis. I just got to. I just think he's is almost unsurpassable. Yeah, I just adored watching him. It was fantastic. What more can I say? Hello.
Yeah, has it gone quiet? I hear you.
Sorry, accidentally hit me mute there. I was going to say the scene in the hospital with Chiklis and his kids is absolutely gold.
Yeah,
Acting gold.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of great Vic stuff in this ep for sure. Northern.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Chiklis as well, because we do see him a little bit vulnerable as well, especially when he's with Carl Weathers, and you can see that even though he's a bit of a nutcase, his team really do look up to him, and you can see that when they go to visit him in the hospital. I mean, even Shane kind of has a lot of anger towards him in this episode, but it's all gone as soon as he sees him in such a weak state. And once again, we get to learn a little bit more about him with Carl Weathers, and he just not. And once again, he's just really good in the role. He somehow manages to kind of make you cheer him on, even though you know you shouldn't.
I mean, and it was kind of, it's almost like there was a revelation about the other path of his future, that he may not necessarily have the future, the retirement that he really wants.
Yeah, like he's thinking that all of his hard work, all of his cover-ups could be leading to nothing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, Carl Weathers basically gives him a window into the type of person he may become. And it's not a great window. It's not a great, future. And in a way, this is the episode where him getting shot could have made him completely turn his life around.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. He makes the wrong decision. We'll talk about that.
It does feel like there is a catalyst here somewhere in this episode for Vic. There was definitely a catalyst. I don't necessarily think that it was just being shot. I think it was more seeing Joe come back. I think that was really it.
Yeah, I think also the moment where he sees that kid die right in front of him, that he's shot.
Yeah,
who's sort of trying with his last strength to reach for his gun. And then there's that really great moment. The kid's really good, actually. I should give him a shout out, because I don't think we mentioned him. He's only a really small role, where he looks Vic right in the eye just before he dies, and he knows he's going to die. And there's this kind of sort of moment of pity between them. It's really well played. I have to give them acting props there. Darth, who is your pick lead cast of the week?
Well, honestly, we would be picking Michael Chiklis for every episode, I think, because he knows every episode.
You can.
But honestly, okay, so I'll stipulate Michael Chiklis owns this episode, granted. But if I had to choose somebody other than Michael Chiklis, your point about Dutch's character it's well made. It actually makes me wonder if he's not a younger version of Marcy's boyfriend. That was just a thought I had.
Yeah, that's good.
Good point.
Yeah, and but however, my choice, I'll have to go with Shane, because I think this is the beginning of Shane's breakup of character. Yeah, up until now he's been pretty constrained. I think this is where we really start to see Shane. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really good Shane episode as well. The confrontation, the horrendous grape scene, and also that scene when he's doing what he's doing in that scene. He's done that before.
Yeah,
you can tell from
and Vic knows it too. Notice he comments on it.
Yeah. I can't find the name of the actor that gets shot in the, unless he's. Does anyone know if his character name is Pedro? Because I don't remember them naming that guy. He's basically an extra with a gun, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really. But he does.
But it was You're right. I agree. That was a nice little sort of eye to eye exchange there, and yeah, there was something in that.
I can't give the actor a shout out because I can't find him. Sadly, I don't think he's listed in the main cast list. So Toxic. Are you also going with the chick list?
No, I'm not. I'm gonna go and side with my counterpart there, Mr. Darth, and just say that I also think it's Walton Goggin. I think he's incredible in this. He goes through so much range in this, and on a rewatch of this show, I realize we're really watching a star be made on this.
Yeah,
he elevates every property that he's in. You asked me yesterday in our interview, one of my favorite flawless shows, and I said Justified. And honestly, as good as everybody is on that show, Walton Goggins is basically he's the best. He's the best thing on the show.
He's not in the show from the beginning, is he? In Justified, he comes in later.
From the very beginning. Yeah, from the very beginning.
Might be getting that mixed up with but is he the lead?
He's the lead antagonist.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I think I was thinking of the lead.
But back to the Shield. This is this range of emotions. Shane can be both loyal, but he can also be backstabbing. He can be earnest, and yet he can be have machinations behind what he's doing. He can be selfish, but he can also be altruistic. He can do all of that stuff in one single episode. He can be petty and mature, giving mature advice to Julian, good, bad, or indifferent. It's at least an elder cop's advice that he's giving to this younger patrolman. And then he can be petty and make little jokes about one of his betters, Vic's former training officer, and someone they usually would hold in high regard. So I like all of that stuff. He does very well with it. And this role, God, he just knocks it out of the park every single time.
Yeah,
it's just so good.
I always felt like he was like Shane was being. There's a fake niceness to him. There's nothing. There's nothing particularly genuine about his niceness, and he's a very frightening character.
You definitely get to see his humanity later.
Yeah.
You will for sure.
But this was. I mean, this was quite disturbing. His behaviour in this was really disturbing.
It was.
We saw a side to him that was really deeply unpleasant.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's 20 points for Vic, 20 points for Shane. With the seasonally adjusted figures, I see Jane Carnes scored 80. So Carnes is the winner. All right. Let's move on. Okay, so standout moment, favorite scene, and also favorite line in the episode. We'll do them both together to save time. So this is a tough one because there are so many good moments. I'm going to go fairly simple on this and say the reveal of the girl in the shower for me is a great standout moment, great bit of writing to reveal that to the audience early on, so you kind of know Dutch is going wrong. I think is a really clever trick. I do like the fight between Vic and Shane. I also like the gunfight when Vic gets injured. It's very realistic. So if I had to pick a whole scene, I'd probably pick the gunfight. But I think just in terms of dramatic writing reveals and narrative, the way they drop that in when the guy goes to get his coat is really, really clever. My standout line for the episode probably, I think, is the one that Joe Clark says to Vic when he's talking about how, you work all your life, you're a cop, you save people's lives. But the truth is the people who we save from the worst day of their lives never get to see our worst day, and you know how we end up and what we go through, and there's so much truth in that, you know, because I'm sure more than their fair share of detectives and uniformed police officers end up with severe PTSD. I mean, look how many Falkland veterans committed suicide when they got home. It's an extremely high number. So I think that line is not only really telling, but it's so true. It's a beautiful piece of writing, and it's great that Carl Weathers gets to say it. So that's hands down my favourite line.
On a very unrelated note, I have just been watching an episode of Ashes to Ashes where they are dealing with a Falklands veteran who's suffering from PTSD. So that's a bit of a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
I'll discuss that more on Tuesday anyway.
Yeah, I saw a play that took on that subject that a friend of mine wrote. And yeah, it's interesting. And it's a shame because the play was doing really well and it got taken off because of the pandemic. So never recovered, sadly. Anyway, yeah, Inside Man, your favourite line and moment.
Okay, favourite line exactly the same as yours. My favourite scene is really the revelation of what Joe has actually become. You know what he really is. You know that whole scene where where Vic sees how he's really living.
I think that line is in the same scene.
It is. It's in that scene, and it's just it's almost, you know, you can almost sort of see Vic's heart breaking a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because he's somebody that he not just admires. You know, he loves this guy. Yeah, he does. He loves him in his own way, and yeah, to see this as Northern had actually mentioned earlier on, to see somebody who's you know, a shell of his former self. Yeah, you know, to see this kind of quite downbeat sort of look on Vic's face, and the revelation of the possibility of his own future, what that could mean to him, you know, what everything could end up like for him. So yeah, that's my favorite scene and favorite line. Yeah.
Great stuff. Northern, favorite line and favorite scene for you. I forgot to mention that my backup favorite line is definitely "Sorry, Daddy," but yeah, Northern.
Yeah, there's a few good. I mean, the
so many
one is good, but I would say the "That's an Arm." I mean, then it just cuts straight to the title. I mean, come on, that's a good way to open your episode. That's an arm. Just the way he delivered it, the way he just looked at it, like he was processing what the hell was going on. It was just, it's darkly funny, but it's a great way to just open that episode as well, and it lets you know, yeah, this is going to be a messed up episode. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. What about favorite scene?
Oh, favorite scene. It is definitely the "Sorry, Daddy." That it's, you know, not just full of line, just full of fact that she just shrugs it off like it was just nothing. I mean, a woman just died and was mutilated badly as well, and she had no feeling towards it whatsoever. It is really disturbing.
Yeah,
and yeah, you just feel sorry for Dutch as well, because despite being a bit full of himself, he does care. He does want to save these people. He's not just doing it for personal gain. He wants to help people. He does. There is something very altruistic about him, despite his arrogance.
Yeah, I mean, also when her boyfriend says, it was her idea, you know, meaning the amputation to keep the girl alive and carry on torturing and defiling her and what God knows whatever. You know that she wears the trousers in that duo. She's got him under her thumb, not the other way around. And I thought that was good. That was a good flip as well.
Yeah, she probably is very. Yeah, because she's a narcissistic psychopath. Get a weak-minded guy who knows what he's doing, but probably is a little bit of a psychopath himself. Then yeah.
Okay, great. Darth, favorite line, favorite scene.
Well, the line you said is the best line. That is the best line. But two of you guys have already cited that line, so I don't know. I don't want to sound like a broken record and say that line.
The daddy line is still available if you want it.
Actually, I'm going to go with a different line, but also by Joe Kelly. where he says, where Vic talking about didn't you get enough on the take, and Joe said, I guess I didn't take enough. That line presages the future of not only next episode, but in the rest of the season and the rest of the series. And I think that exchange right there, I didn't take enough. I think that line is what was ringing in Vic's head when he was lying in the hospital the whole time. I didn't take enough. I have to take more.
Yeah.
I think I remember that line going to the next episode.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's actually quite important for episode.
Yeah,
4.
So that's what I'm going with.
Talking
best
of
scene,
best scene,
best scene. Northern already hit on it. Is the reveal of Marcy being the psycho, like, I'm sorry, Daddy, and the look on Dutch's face. Honestly, I'm just glad. I'm just glad he didn't ask her out.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Actually, I mean, you could imagine that if she was Dutch's girlfriend, she would manipulate him no end. But
maybe that should have been Dutch's girlfriend from season 1. They kind of dropped that angle. Going into
yeah. Well, I mean,
I thought they're going with it.
We haven't had the scene with Dutch and the cat yet, but when that comes up, I did always think they were setting Dutch up he was going to become a serial killer. That's what I thought. I'm glad they didn't.
That's what they should have done.
I'm kind of glad they didn't do that, because I think that's probably a bridge too far, believability wise, because I don't think his moral compass would snap that far. But anyway, talking of snapped moral compasses, Toxic, you're someone who's familiar with the word daddy. What do you think?
I have no moral compass with which to snap, good sir, so I don't entertain that thought. It's not even there.
But that's the point I was making. Yeah.
I hear
your favorite line and scene.
Favorite line and scene is the revelation of Melanie Lynskey being the actual Hannibal Lecter-esque type character, and the "I'm sorry, Daddy," just because it's, I mean, just for personal reasons aside, it's great, and it really the look of shock on Dutch's face that he had read the thing so wrong. I like it.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't elaborate on your personal daddy issues.
Yeah, let's not.
No. Okay, cool. All right, great. Okay.
That could have been Michael Kelly's younger sister.
So could have been. So okay, so final thoughts from everybody on the episode, and please give it your rating out of 10. I'll start. This episode's a 10 out of 10 for me. The scene with the door is not enough to knock it down to a 9. So I'm happy to give it a 10. I think it's got flawless pacing, really engaging, great supporting characters, no fat. Every scene is relevant. Even the stuff with Danny and Julian is quite engaging, even though there's not that much of it, and actually that sets up great tension for their characters going forward, which I also like. So, but the whole Carl Weathers narrative with Joe Clark and sort of a foreshadowing for Vic of what's to come, and then you can wonder what would have happened in the future if Vic hadn't met him this day. If these events hadn't happened, if he hadn't come back into his life and given him that insight, would have Vic put the brakes on? Who knows? But yeah, it's a great episode on so many levels. So 10 out of 10 from me. Inside Man and everyone else in the following order.
Clear 10 out of 10. I'm actually willing to suspend disbelief in terms of the door, and I'm going to just add that it's possible that door could have been reinforced somewhat. So, given the fact that she is the girl of of the villain, so I'm kind of in my own head that door was reinforced. But yeah, it's a clear 10, an easy 10. If only we could score more than that, then I would have done. Yeah, it's a great episode.
Well, these go to 11. Northern.
Let's get to 11. Yeah, I go for a 10 out of 10 because it does keep you on your seat, and you're really hoping Dutch clocks on that these two are the killers. And you've also got Vic and you've also got Mackie with Carl Weathers as well, and the chemistry between them is really good. You really feel that bond between them. It just works really well, and it's very funny, it's very tragic, and it's very disturbing at the same time. It's great combination that balances out all three tones here very well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Darth?
10, no question about it. And as far as final thoughts goes, I can't help but think, I've heard stories about the old LAPD in the 70s and 80s, and I've heard stories of how they'll just pick someone off to the side and they will beat that person to death for no other reason than they just gave them a little lip. That was known to happen in the LAPD. And now think of it, the 70s, Carl Weathers would have been his prime. Not Carl Weathers, but Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly would have been his prime, assuming he was in the LAPD in the 70s. And it's just a thought in the back of my mind, like my headspace, that just picturing Joe Kelly in his prime being one of these guys. And because I had that in the back of my mind, I feel like I'm not quite as sympathetic to Joe Kelly as maybe some people on the panel are. Because he's living in that place, but how much of it was really his doing? I can't help but ask that question. But as far as the episode goes, it's a 10, an easy 10. That's it.
Yeah, his actions could have cost Vic his job, and nearly cost Vic his life as well. When you think about it,
that's right, and that's another possible flaw of the episode. That is, what sort of explanation did Vic give to how he got shot? What were you doing there? What call were you responding to? Why were you pursuing this guy? Doesn't anybody make the connection? That doesn't Acevedo make the connection? Wait a second, this guy, he's connected to Joe Kelly. What Joe Kelly have? It seems like they could have done another episode with that. Like, what was going on here? But I guess they didn't do that. That potential flaw of the episode.
Toxic.
A 9 out of 10 easily. I mean, really, I can't give it a 10 out of 10 just because it's kind of a in between linking episode that it relies too heavily on what we're going to see later and what we've seen before. But it's a really good, solid 9 out of 10.
Okay. All right. So 49 out of a potential 50 makes it the highest scoring episode so far. So anyone want to say anything else about this episode before we move on?
Nope.
Anyone?
Yeah, I'll just add that this episode, I think, had the greatest emotional range for shown in any Shield episode to date. I can't think of anything that comes close, and I think that's the reason why I'm giving it the highest possible 10 compared to any episode to date.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll move on to episode 4, Carte Blanche. It is directed by none other than Peter Horton. Did anyone here ever used to watch the drama show created by Ed Zwick, who would go on to direct Glory and many other amazing films, called 30-something? Did anyone used to watch 30-something?
Not by my own choice. My mom made me watch it with her.
Well, that counts. In 30-something, there was a character called Gary who died, who had like a beard. He was like the character that everybody loved. And then when he died in the show, all this stuff came out about him, like he was in lots of debt and, and it's like, do you remember him as who he was, or the shit that you found out later kind of thing. Anyway, he was a key character in the show. He was in, I think, 80 episodes. He was played by Peter Horton, who directs episode 4. And Peter Horton is now a fairly established director. So a little bit of information for you there. So Carte Blanche, that's French for anyone who doesn't know. Written by Shawn Ryan and Reed Steiner. 2 of the strike team are missing from this episode. It's only Shane and Vic that are in this ep. Lemansky and forget the other guy's name because he never says anything.
Ronnie.
Ronnie are not present in this episode. Okay, so let me just indulge in another sip of whiskey, gentlemen, in order to get through the narration of the synopsis.
Schlante.
Well, when I say risky, what I really mean is kraken, which is obviously the juice of a kraken. Tastes like it. So, okay. So, the episode opens with Vic getting a commendation for his medal for bravery. We know this episode takes place 3.5 weeks approximately after the last episode. He gets the commendation with Claudette looking on, giving him a bit of a glare. Vic subsequently finds out that it was Laney's idea, the civilian assessor, to give him the medal in the first place. Rather unfortunate set of circumstances there, but there we are. We also discover before the titles. Sorry, let me just get the pictures up here. We also discover that there's a scheme that Vic came up with to trade in guns. And this little girl comes in called Patty Hinkle, and she brings in a gun. And you're exchanging guns for toys. It's an amnesty thing, but everybody has to give their address. So Vic's idea is that they run the addresses and they check the guns for any unsolved crimes and see if they get any hits. So it's a way of scoring a few points. Whilst investigating a robbery, Acevedo discovers that Shane doesn't have a badge and that Shane's badge was actually used to gain access to the premises. So Shane is forced to admit that he lost his badge in Tijuana. When Acevedo asks Vic about it, Shane jumps in and says he wasn't there. He doesn't know anything about it. The robbery victim doesn't want to tell them what was stolen. Shane and Vic have a quiet word from him, and they find out that the shop is actually a front for an Armenian chop shop. So Vic has an idea. He turns around to Acevedo and says, look, these diamonds have been stolen. We go in undercover pretending to be dirty cops. Acevedo balks at this idea. He says, going in undercover as dirty cops, do you think you can pull that off? Well, we can try, says Vic. And we cut to the titles. Great lines before the titles. Meanwhile, so we're introduced to kind of one of the main plot threads of the episode, which is Danny is now being sued in a civil suit by the widow of the man she shot in episode 2. Acevedo is also named in the civil suit, so he's personally interested in getting it turned around. The lawyer comes in and says he wants $2 million to make the suit go away for the widow. And Acevedo tells him...
You said $5 million.
Was it 5? Thank you for correcting me. Tells him to piss off. Vic, meanwhile, pursuing his leads, gets the next fence who has the diamonds. He's the guy who stole the diamonds. And he offers, he realizes this fence is connected to a major figure within the Armenian mob. So he says, look, you can keep a third of the diamonds, but we want to be introduced to your boss. We're going to take him the other 2/3. Claudette and Acevedo are they have a meeting about what's going on with Vic. There's also one of the guns is traced to a murder of a Richard Cummings, which is suspected that the guy who caused that murder is a guy called Manny, who's a nasty piece of work. So Claudette has him being brought in. Vic and Shane get to the next guy. The Armenian mobster is called Alex Selznick. And basically, this is the first time they go to visit him in his kind of social club, Armenian social club. This is the first time the money train is mentioned, is in that scene. It's mentioned in one line. Acevedo is constantly under stress because Vic keeps taking the undercover dirty cops thing to the next level. He basically says, you know, we've got to set up a deal with this guy. And Acevedo's like, you're having way too much fun playing this role. Dutch and Claudette call Mr. Hinkle in. That's the father of the girl who brought the gun in. They've gone through his records. They realized he had a run-in with Manny, so they kind of force him to fess up. Danny's complaint has been there's been a second complaint lodged against Danny, apparently when she broke up a bar fight, allegations of racial comments and anti-Arab comments, which she adamantly refutes. So Shane and Vic go and return the jewels to the Armenian mobster. They give him a tip-off of a raid so that he trusts them. Then Acevedo goes back. Vic goes back to Acevedo and says, you've got to organise a raid in 2 hours. Acevedo agrees, but informs Vic that he's transferring Shane off the strike team and he's bringing in a new person who's going to be a minority because the all-white strike team doesn't look good. Vic goes and complains. He thinks if he complains to the civilian auditor, he might get some sympathy, but he discovers it's actually her idea. So that doesn't work out too well. Vic and Shane go back to the Armenian bar, where Vic is asked to take out this jeweler, basically get rid of him, while there's lots of hot dancers getting ready for some kind of bizarre Armenian dance. I don't quite fully understand. Looks fun, though. Acevedo doesn't like the idea and tells Vic so, but is kind of forced to go along with it. He informs him Shane is going to Vice. When that's mentioned in front of Shane, and Shane says to Vic, what's all that about? He says, I don't know. Total lie. So meanwhile, Dutch and Claudette interrogate Manny. This is the nasty piece of work who may or may not have killed somebody. Right, then we go into like an absolutely ridiculous scene. So in order to convince the Armenian mobster that they've carried out their threat to kill the jewel thief, they decide to find a body and then fake the killing of this guy with a body that's already dead. Shane says
there's slides down there for you, Lance.
Oh,
if you want
thank you. Are you able to scroll through those? Perfect.
You can, but this is the scene you're talking about right here, so you can go back or forward, however you see fit.
I'll let you run those while I'm talking.
Yes, sir.
So Vic and Shane go to, they run this by Acevedo, who by now is exasperated. The whole thing is just totally out of control. And they go to the motel room where this guy is, says he's been shot in the face. He's basically got a head wound, and you can still completely see he's not going to be the jewel thief. So Vic's like, goes to Shane, go and get my shotgun from the car. Couldn't believe that bit. Julian and Danny are called to check on some church vandalism. Whilst there, Danny spots this guy who is a coach. There he is. And he's burying a squirrel for a kid who discovered it on the side of the road. You can tell that Danny immediately likes him. There's a mutual attraction there. And she kind of wanders off with a smile on her face. She's going to be hugely disappointed later. We cut back to the apartment, and Vic gets ready to blow this guy's head off. Acevedo arrives right after that's happened, and he's somewhat upset. Says the sting won't work. But anyway, they do the sting. The Armenian guy arrives, but he doesn't talk in the apartment, so they don't get the relevant information. So they go back to the Armenian club. Shane is asked to remain behind while Vic goes to resolve the various issues, but with an Armenian bodyguard in tow. So he's got to look up some stuff on computers and see if there are any warrants out for any of their existing addresses. So meanwhile, Dutch is now super suspicious of everybody because of his fuck up in the previous episode. So he starts interrogating this female witness. It's good that you got a still of that really hot girl, by the way. I saw that. Good shout. So Claudette tells off Dutch for going too hard on this witness. Yeah, that's the one. And Claudette says, she's not Marcy. You screwed up your case. Don't screw up mine. And that's him told. And then he says, take that back. And she's like, later. So Vic arrives at the barn with the Armenian in tow. He's checking addresses. Then Aceveda comes over to basically ball him out. And Aceveda nearly fucks up the whole thing. And then he clocks the Armenian and he quickly gets in sync with Vic. It's a really good scene.
Well, he didn't. If I can interject, Vic gives him a tell. He says, "Remember the situation with your nephew or something." You know, and there is no nephew. So
yeah. No, he kind of gives him a code and a look, and Aceveda quickly cottons on and manages to make it flow, so it all seems innocuous. So it's clever. I liked it.
But all for nothing, thanks to this cop here.
Well, yeah, who then brings out the jewel thief who's supposed to be dead. The Armenian sees him, so Vic is forced to knock him out. Shane is now in danger. He's playing and losing at cards. Vic calls him, tells him to excuse himself after 10 seconds and go to the toilet. So Shane does that. The Armenian's keeping an eye on him. He sends a heavy in to the toilet to keep an eye on Shane. Shane pulls his gun on the guy. And then literally as that happens, Mackie and Aceveda do a raid on the place. They arrest everybody. And as you know, Shane was in real danger there. So there's a bonding moment between him and Vic, which is quite nice. That's sort of sealing over the wounds from last episode. Meanwhile, we go back to the all-important, crucial subplot of the vandalization of this church. And I don't know why these two are out of uniform in this scene, actually. But they are for some reason. Because they're unis. They're not detectives. So I don't know why they're out of uniform here. Maybe they're incognitos, supposedly. But didn't make any sense to me. So while they're back at the church, Danny spots the guy giving a kid some money, and then she goes and follows him, and she realizes he's burying another animal, and he basically gives the kids money if they lose their pets. And then she says, look, you know, I don't know what the code violation is, but obviously it's illegal to bury roadkill or something. And then we get a view into his massive pet cemetery in his house, which is definitely not creepy at all.
Poor Danny. Poor Danny.
It is quite funny because Danny clearly fancied this guy. You could just see on her face, it's like, yeah, I'm not going on a date with this guy. Fuck that. So this guy is weird, man. I can't remember if this guy comes back, but I don't think he does. But yeah, anyway, at least he wasn't a pedophile, which is kind of the other way it could have gone. So yeah, Vic gives Aceveda a list of the places that he got out the guy. And then there's one that they decide to go and check, which is a bit of an innocuous address. And of course, that turns out to be the money train. Meanwhile, Aceveda has tracked down this witness who's testifying against Danny that she calls all these racial slurs. There he is on the screen. And he realizes this witness has been manufactured by the lawyer. So when the lawyer comes back in saying, have you considered our offer? He says, yes, I have a counter offer for you. Nothing. And basically says, look, your case isn't going to hold up in court, and tells him to piss off. So we cut back to Vic and Shane, who are at the money train location. And we realise that it is the money train destination that they've been looking for. So when they go back to the barn, oh no, sorry, that's I've done that bit already. Yeah, back at the barn, Claudette ultimately takes it back, and she offers to buy Dutch dinner, but he refuses. Vic and Shane talk about taking out the train, timing it right, taking their time, planning it, and so on. The widow comes back into the barn. She has a pop at Danny, and she says, "Justice will find you." Well, will it? We'll see. I'm sorry, we forgot. I forgot the bit earlier. Manny and Hinkle end up in the same cage together. In fact, that's this scene here. And Claudette has Hinkle wear a wire just to make sure she's got all the evidence on Manny that she needs. I didn't need a confession, but it always helps, she said. And he realizes he's been played. So Claudette, who handles the case, she takes the lead in this case, forcing Dutch to take second chair, proves that she totally knows her shit, and she's an outstanding detective. Vic's back at home with his kids. Matthew's playing cards. Corinne arrives back. But basically Corinne says, "Look, you said you'd leave the house, so you've got to move out." So Vic goes to rent like a small sort of condo apartment. But the hotel clerk, once he sees the badge, says, "Oh, is this about the people across the street?" And he gives him the room for free. So Vic goes in the room. There's noise coming in all directions. We don't get a preview of what's happening across the street, sadly. And he's still wincing from his wound. That is episode 4. Good episode. It's another good one for sure. Not as strong as episode 3. You could argue that the storyline with Danny and Julian and the guy burying the weird shit, the roadkill and stuff, felt a bit like padding. But I quite enjoyed those scenes, because also Danny is kind of really keeping her distance from Julian emotionally and also as an officer. And but she actually says, make sure you keep me in sight this time. And even though she says that, he doesn't. He goes wandering off the other direction. He hasn't got her in his eye line at all when she goes to investigate the house, which just goes to show what a terrible policeman Julian is. But really, this episode is about setting up the main storyline for the next couple of seasons, which is the Armenian money train. It's the first time we're sort of introduced to this world properly. And, we see Vic's greed. And I mean, this is a decision that ultimately is going to lead to his downfall, but we don't want to spoil it for those who haven't watched it. So, some good supporting cast. We've got some of them have been in it before. But it's really the leads that take the meat of the episode here. So it's a good one. I'll give my rating later. Inside Man, your overview thoughts?
I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to.
It's not as good as episode 3.
It kind of felt like a little bit of a downer after Ep 3. It didn't meet any of my expectations, and if I'm totally honest, I thought the whole Armenian, Russian, Armenian, Libyan, or Lebanese Armenian thing it bored me a little bit. It didn't really grab me. I mean, that whole thing was really just to give you some information that we were going to get hold of a little bit later about the money train. It just felt that whole thing was just there purely for that. Having said that, there were moments that I really did enjoy. I thought the tension was really racked up when Shane was there, and you knew something was going to kick off. And when he gets the call from Vic, I thought Jesus, what's going to happen? Are they going to torture him? Are they going to? Because I don't know anything about the show, so I don't know whether any of the characters survive into the next season or even the next episode. So I wasn't sure whether Shane was even going to survive the episode. I thought maybe there was going to be a little bit of a, something going on there, which to a certain degree sort of disappointed me. I mean, not that I wanted to lose Shane at all, but I think, I don't know, it just
raised the stakes a bit.
Yeah, it's the only episode that I've actually felt bored in great big chunks, and I'm really sorry to have said that, because I loved the show right up until now. I still love it.
Everything that you found boring will be so important later. So there's a lot of setup in this episode, which will pay off. That's all I'm going to say. All right, Northern.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Inside Man. It did seem a little bit forgettable. I'm not going to lie. I kind of forgot what the hell happened in this episode. I've just been speed rewatching it right now as we speak on my phone. And from what I could remember, I did like the bits with Acevedo looking like he might be getting manipulated by Vic a little bit so much than he's thinking. I did like that.
Yeah.
And I did kind of like the chemistry between Vic and Shane as well, because those two work really well together. They really do. Shane's kind of like a bit of a loose cannon who's kind of who works real well when Vic has got his leash on him a tiny bit. But we do get a good little we do get Manny, who is convincingly creepy, and that's it. That's most I could remember, and I think there is one good line I remember, and I'll tell you that later when we get to it.
I think I know what line it is.
Okay. Very good. Darth.
I can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just tinkering with my microphone. I thought the episode was actually ridiculous. It had amusing aspects to it, like they unzipped the body bag and a guy's face still there. Like that's amusing. Oh, give me my shotgun. But I can't rate it a high episode just because it has some funny bits that made me go, yeah, okay, that was cool. What I do like about this episode the most is they're tapping into what they did in episode 1 with the Vic and Acevedo, the whole detente thing they have going on. And let's see it. And Vic, I want to remind everybody of episode 1, season 1, that line between Acevedo and Vic, where Vic says, "I don't listen to you, not even on Cinco de Mayo," or however he said it.
Yeah.
Okay, that line, we're seeing that line pay off here. Because Vic and Acevedo have this thing going on, but Vic clearly doesn't see it as a partnership. He is maneuvering Acevedo in every way, in every moment, from the beginning of this episode to the end.
Yeah, I got that as well.
Yeah.
He is absolutely playing Acevedo like a fiddle. He has, and Acevedo, he's reacting to everything that he's doing. Like, what's going to happen next? Like, I can't control this guy.
Yeah, well, he does look like he's regretting it. I love that. It's funny.
Yeah, that's the best part of the episode is Acevedo looks like what have I got myself into? But then, and at the end of the episode, he had a chance. He had the opportunity to get off the train, so to speak, by going to investigate the train. But he doesn't do that. He crumples it up. He comes up at the address and goes, "Okay, no, I'll trust you. Oh, let's do a little. What was the word he used? Chit. Yeah, we'll do the little chit thing where he says, I put the guy on your squad. I get final approval. I get final approval. Your approval. Well, what kind of doublespeak is that? That's complete doublespeak there, and Acevedo completely lets it go. Well, I'll tell you what. The episode has its moments, sure, but I can't rate it a very high episode. What would have been nice for the stream, though, I admit I'm a little bit disappointed, is that we didn't have an Armenian musical accompaniment.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Toxic.
Yes. You know, I liked it a lot better than what you guys like. I mean, I don't know if it was as tight as the last episode, and I could have kind of done without. I mean, if this Pet Cemetery guy pops back in later, then I can kind of see this. But if this is a one-off, and I kind of feel like it is, then I don't understand what the point of this was, except to just kind of twist the knife that Danny has horrible taste in men.
I feel like he does come back, but I might be remembering that wrong.
I don't know, Lance. I wish I had an answer for you, but I actually just don't know. This episode has the because I don't know how many episodes are in the season, but I don't think it's that many. This has the unenviable task of kind of setting up a lot of plot, and when you have that, it can kind of crush itself under its own weight. I did like the idea of, the DEI initiative coming in, and the fact that Vic really thought he was going to be able to, hey, you know what, maybe you can help me out. And Lady's just like, oh no, it was my idea. And she just word for word, you could see that Acevedo had just memorized her talking points and just said the exact same thing. Because when she says it, and that look of realization on Vic's face, when just in the previous episode, he's looking to get rid of Shane, and now he's doing everything he can to save him both career-wise and save him physically, because later on, Shane is actually put into danger, actually for the first time through no fault of his own. It's just something Shane was, like, hey, I got to stay here. And, so yeah, I enjoyed that. And to speak on real quick, because I promised Wormy Spoons I would answer. So when you're doing a light touch security type thing, you want to do two things. You want to have people in uniform of some kind, but then other times, if you feel like that's not, you don't want to spook the person off, you'll come back wearing civilian clothes. Also, with this being like an off the books favor that Acevedo is doing, he's probably kind of paying these guys in their off time, and they can dress down. So it's a combination of those two. Both can be true at the same time. So that's a standard cop thing that happens a lot.
It's a political favor to him, isn't it? Because we can see it's a big church, and it's not a small parish. It's
because you'll notice when Danny dresses down later, when she's accosted by the widow, by the Middle Eastern widow, she's wearing the same clothes, but you can see she's got a shoulder rig on.
Yeah.
So she was wearing that underneath her regular outfit. And I love Lance great pointing out that, the little, hey, keep me in your sight this time. And then Julian not only doesn't realize that she's taking a dig at him, he fucking walks away again. Yeah. I think Darth called Julian a bad cop when we were doing the previous season. And I you know what, on a rewatch, I cannot agree more. I think Julian's just a bad cop, man. He is, and
I mean he becomes an even worse cop as the show goes on.
And it's like all of his stuff is just wrapped around his sexual preference, which is so weird. They could have put something else in there, like made him like some kind of crack shot that they're like, oh man, we got a sniper situation, call in Julian, because like give him some other thing with his personality besides his proclivities in the bedroom. So it's so weird, and it never really changes either, I don't think.
I don't know. I think it was a good choice making him gay, because the whole thing with African American homosexuals, particularly in uniform, being on the down low or kind of living these double lives is a big thing. It's a really big thing. It goes on a lot, but it's not done in shows very often. I think the fact that it was a black character who is deeply flawed, was a really brave choice. I don't want him to be expert at something. He has got good qualities. He does genuinely care about people, and he does want to be a good cop. He's just not very good at it.
He's not. Yeah. They'd have been better off at some point writing him off to become like a social worker or something like that. Like he just, like, I think Darth said something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing earlier when we did the first season, that he puts other people's lives in danger. You know, being a cop, being a first responder, a soldier, firefighter, all of these things, you can't have bad days. You can't go in there worried about your sex life. You can't go in there worried about, you know, you have to go in there and do the job all the way or not at all. Because if you do that, if you're thinking about other stuff and you are not good at what you do, you get somebody killed. Maybe many somebody. So I feel like they kind of dropped the ball. I don't have a problem with him being gay. What I have a problem with is that is his only defining characteristic, really, or it's at least the main thing, and they don't really do anything else. But yeah, no. You know, we see once again CCH Pounder playing Claudette, being this, you know, just I don't want to say brilliant, but she's so consistent in how good she is. But she it's not anything that ever comes up where, you know, she's flawed. You know, her character and the way in which she does the job, you know, she has that opportunity to go to the civilian auditor and be like, yeah, you know, I do have some problems with these guys. They've been, because it's not even an option for her. She's not about that life. She's not going to go, if she's going to win against Vic in Aceveda, she wants to win the right way. She's not going to go put on a snitch jacket and do that. And if she's going to, you know, kind of berate her partner for a misgiving or a failing that he has had, then she's going to make up for it later because he's still her partner and be like, hey, you know what, buddy, let me buy you dinner. Come on now. So she's so consistent in this. It just, God, I love her to death. And reaffirms my choice of her being my favorite character on the show.
Yeah, she's mine. Well, her and Dutch together are what make it so great. If we were doing a category of smarmy look of the week, then there it is on screen now.
Well, she's got two, and I'm sorry, the slides kept saying they were too big. I'm gonna have to split them up next time if I do slides for you, because I had to delete like half my slides in order to make it fit into the StreamYard. But there's a great, in the beginning when Vic gets his award, there's this, they pan the camera over to and she's just like, she's like, whatever, asshole. Like,
I mentioned that in my summary. There you go. Look, the toilet's still out of action in the background. So that plumber that they got in season 1.
By the way, this trick that Vic does at the hotel, I've done many times. I just slap my badge down there. Yeah, I'm working a case and see if they'll give me a discount or even a free room or something.
Good idea. Okay, so I don't know who's doing the 5-knuckle shuffle, but please stop. All right, so we're gonna talk supporting cast now. We had 2 outstanding supporting cast in the last episode. In this one, the choices are not. There's a lot of people with a lot of small roles. It's harder to put one who stands out, but a good contender for me is Chris Payne Gilbert as creepy burial guy, because I quite liked what he did with that role. It's not a massive part like most of the parts. You've got about 4 different Armenian mobsters to choose from. You've got the widow. She's a pretty good actress, but you know, you've got the smarmy lawyer. But Chris Payne, you know, we did the Spartacus stream, as you remember. Check out who he's on a date with in this picture. Leslie Ann Brandt, who plays the slave Navia, no less, in Spartacus. So there you go. Yeah, good on you, Chris. Yeah, I approve of your taste. Then you can also pick Jonathan Neal Schneider, who plays Manny, does a pretty good role. You've got the father of the girl. It's got a couple of scenes, but it's harder to pick a clear winner. For me, it's a toss-up between these two, Jonathan Neal Schneider and Chris Payne Gilbert. But I'm going to pick Gilbert because it's the more interesting character, and he's it's quite cool the way he plays him, very straight and charismatic. And like what he's doing is so normal. And then, you know, turns out that he's actually a relative of Stephen King's. Yeah, so he's going to be my pick for this week. I'm going to put the cast list up so people can see it. Let's get the full cast list up. Inside Man, do you have a pick? Oh, you've got Lucinda Jenny as Lainey Kellis as well. You could also pick Kathy Cahill Ryan as Corinne. So there's a few others. Go ahead, mate. Sorry.
I mean, I will just skim over because I wasn't particularly impressed with what they were given. So I'm going to say Manny for his sufficiently creepy demeanor. Yeah. And I'll leave it there. I don't want to be too disparaging about the episode.
That's good. For anyone watching, it's a good likeness to the Inside Man, by the way, this actor. So.
Spot on.
Yeah. Northern.
Yeah, definitely, Manny. There's just something really unsettling about the guy. He looks like he's he'll do some very bad things to you. He does. He'll probably won't care how badly he does it. He's just got this very creepy face, and I think it's the same actor who was in Gone Baby Gone, who played one of the rapists. Anyway,
let's have a look and see.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Is he?
No.
Let's have a look. No, that credit is not there.
Oh no, so he's not in.
Must have been Inside Man that played that role because the likeness.
I was there.
The likeness, as we know, is uncanny. There you go. So,
yeah, God, he does look very similar to the actor, though. He really does. He's got that same sort of facial structure as well.
And very similar facial structure. Darth, got a pick for your favourite supporting. You can even pick Baby Chickless, Autumn Chickless.
Yeah, hold on. Isn't the fact that Manny is creepy and a career criminal, isn't that a testament to how well the role was played, though? Because it seems like you can't really get a yearbook and say, well, that guy looks like a criminal, that guy looks like a criminal. And they are. People can't help the way they look, but they can help the way they act. And Manny, he was an interesting character, but do I really want to write home about it? Let me take this route. Instead of saying who I thought the best actor was, I'll tell you what scene with the guest actor I thought was most compelling to me.
Go for it.
That was the scene where the widow comes in and just goes off on Acevedo.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
Yeah, that may not be the best acting scene, speaking as an outsider, but it was the scene that made me feel like, I can't help but feel for this lady. I mean, she didn't ask for any of this. I mean, she's probably married to that a-hole. He got himself shot because he couldn't keep his temper under control. And now she's probably stuck in America. She can't go back to the Middle East, and heaven forbid. And she's gonna have a kid in New York as a single mom. I can't help but feel.
That actress is Veena Badisha. Sadly, no picture of her on our IMDb. 42 acting credits, one of which was last year, SEAL Team. But she also had a role in This Is Us. That's such a good show. This Is Us. SWAT. So, a few things. So very much the jobbing actress. Okay, Tox.
Best supporting character. I have a likeness for I'm gonna go a little outside the box here, and the kid that they use as a snitch, the one that keeps stealing crap and then selling it off the back.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
He's actually pretty good because he's kind of charismatic. He was in the previous episode as well. That's Ron Rakey Lee plays Taylor Oars. Yeah, he's good actually. I did quite like him.
I like when they do a recurring side character that has already been established. That's why I was so upset that we never got to see the young car thief from season 1 come back. I really thought that she would have been a great addition as just like a every now and then popping up character on the show. But yeah, I like him. He's I like the dynamic that they have with him, and I love the scene where Shane. I have it on one of the slides. The scene where Shane gives him the finger guns, like it's like because he's like, "Wait, this thing cost me $50 or something like that."
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Shane gives him the finger guns back. I like it. I like that kind of thing. I like.
Has anyone seen this mini-series? I think it's a 4-parter, the Fight Night, the $1 Million Heist, because that actor's got a pretty big role in this.
Does he?
Yeah. And I keep meaning to watch this. It's on Amazon. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah, I might take it a look, as I like heist movies, but I'm not the biggest Kevin Hart fan. I think he's kind of
I'm a massively not Kevin Hart fan, but I do like Samuel L. Jackson though.
Yeah, of course.
And I do like Don Cheadle. I like Terrence Howard. I like Taraji. So you've got some pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, if we have, it may be worth putting up with Kevin Hart to see these other pillars of the acting community do their thing. Yeah, I definitely need to check this out. I keep meaning to watch it. I like it. I like the fact it's a period piece.
I love period pieces. Yeah. Especially this era, and in this kind of I might take a look at it.
Yeah, I think I'll try and watch it before Tuesday if I can, so we can talk about it then. Okay, so let's go through this next section pretty quick because we're coming up to 2 hours. The actor for the lead cast. This for me is a really easy for this episode because I like this episode. I like it as much as Toxic. The narrative engine for this episode is the constant ramping up of the stakes by Vic on this Let's Play Undercover Dirty Cops to the total exasperation of Acevedo. And it's the scenes with Acevedo where Acevedo's completely lost control. You know, he can't pull them out because he knows it's going to have consequences. So he's kind of forced to go along with it. And they've got about 6 or 7 scenes together. So for me, they're the engine of this episode, the scenes between Acevedo and Vic. And this is the first time where we see Acevedo totally lose control of something that he's agreed to. He really loses complete control of it. So for me, Benito Martinez as Acevedo is my leading cast of the episode. Inside Man.
Exactly the same. Benito Martinez. When I was really waiting for an episode where where he was really going to dominate. I think he does dominate this, although I think it's to dominate in my least favorite episode. It maybe not necessarily be a good thing, but he's the only kind of shining light, I think, in the entire episode. Certainly his his little arc within the episode and the overall show. But particularly within this, you sort of start to see his frustration starting to pour out, more and more. It has to be really Benito Martinez.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Northern.
Definitely same, because this guy is letting his own ambition cloud his judgment, and he's paying for it, and he's starting to realize that now. It's like I've shook hands with the devil, and don't think I should have done that. That's what I like about Acevedo in this episode. He's a very selfish, ambitious guy who's got his own agenda, and you can see it's kind of going back on him a little bit here.
Yeah. Okay. Very good, Darth.
Yeah, I got to go with Acevedo. I mean, he wants to be the next Giuliani, the next Thomas Dewey. He wants to be the next Boss Tweed. He's on that path, and he's not enjoying it. And I don't know how else I will add one thing about the absurdity of the episode, and that is apparently the entire episode takes place in a single 24 hours.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that can't be. There's just too much going on.
Yeah, it feels like that it's a lot for one day, for sure. Toxic.
Yeah, I guess Aceveda gets the full trump card on this one, because I'm going with Benito Martinez as well. I like it. He usually we see Vic having to keep a bunch of different plates in the air, and this episode's no different. But this is one of the first times that we see Aceveda doing that. He's trying to deal with the fallout from Danny's shooting and protect her, but also protect himself, which is of course much more important. He's trying to keep his political things going. He's still got Laney, the civilian auditor, running around in the barn, potentially causing trouble. He's trying to keep Vic on a leash, and Vic don't really wear a leash, as we know. He doesn't like what Vic and Shane are doing with the potential harm and chaos that can cause, but his own political aspirations and hunger for, getting his name in the paper in a good way makes it so that he wants, maybe Vic can pull this off, but he's just trying to keep a lid on it as best he can at the same time. So yeah, it's Aceveda all the way in this.
Fab. Okay, well, before we wrap up, we'll do our favorite line of the episode and favorite scene or moment. Favorite line for me is, it's a toss between, they're both really the same. Aceveda saying, "Going undercover as dirty cops, do you think you can pull that off?" Well, we can try. It's just really fun. But then Aceveda later, when he's really stressed, and he says to Vic, "You're having too much fun playing this part." I actually think I'm probably going to pick that one. My favorite moment, it's got to be when Shane and Vic arrive. And I thought you said he took a blast to the face. He just got shot in the head and go to the car, get the shotgun. That whole scenario, as preposterous as it is, was still very funny and engaging. So, yeah, that scene was entertaining, which is what I want. I want to be entertained. Inside Man, now you've finished making lots of strange noises. I don't want to think what you were doing. Tell us your next choice.
My favorite line has to be Vic's response to, "I want to see your warrant," and Vic responds with, "And I want to see Anna Kournikova naked on a waterbed."
Yeah, I nearly picked that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my favorite line. My favorite scene, strangely, is Shane and Vic's observation of what is yet to come with the money train. I kind of like that little bit of decision making on his part, where he declines to intervene or declines to kind of put a, maybe as Shane had said, this is going to get Aceveda licking our balls, for weeks.
Yeah.
I just like that moment where we suddenly realize that Vic is making a decision there, and it's going to be a long-term thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've only just noticed that one of the dancers was transgender in that Armenian club, thanks to these stills. There we are. Okay. Northern, favorite line, favorite scene?
Yeah, the one that really stuck out was you're going undercover as crooked cops. Think you can pull it off? Yeah, we'll try. Because if you know the characters already, you know just how funny that fucking line is.
Yeah, it is fun. Very good. Do you have a favorite scene, or is it the same
scene, one? I'm trying to think now. Well, yeah, maybe the shotgun scene, because it's so one of the few things I do remember. It's just once again, just some dark laughs. It's just putting the cover on him as well, just before he blows the head off. Even Shane is a little bit queasy about the whole situation as well. So his facial expression did make me laugh a little bit.
I'm going to be interrogating you later to make sure you did actually watch this episode. I feel your answers are very
I was.
vague and non-committed.
I rewatched it twice while we were streaming as well.
I'm going to get Vic in here to interrogate you and make sure that's the case.
I'll take care of it, Lance.
Thank you, Toxic. Excellent. I knew I could depend on you. Darth, your choices, please.
In terms of the best line, what comes immediately to mind is when they first started investigating, they go into that guy's shop and he says, "I'm calling 911." Shane says, "Sure, we'll be back in 5 minutes and take your report." That's what comes to mind is the best line. It comes immediately to mind. The best scene is towards the end after they do the bust, and Vic says to Aceveda, "Okay, I'll bring a guy on my team, but I keep Shane." And Aceveda says, "I approve the new guy." And Vic says, "I approve your approval. I get
as long as I get to approve your approval." Yeah.
Right. That scene is just the capstone of what we saw the entire episode of Vic just playing Aceveda like a fiddle.
Yeah.
And Aceveda just lets him get away with it. He's literally just bending over and taking it. He's literally.
Wow. Don't want to be doing that. So, Tox.
My favorite line is just because I've used it. Is when he's babysitting he's the guy for guy thing, and Shane is just playing cards with the guys, and he looks over at the one hot chick and he's like, "Instead of playing poker, I'd sure like to poke her." And the other guys are just kind of looking like, what kind of animal? And right after what he did in the previous episode, it's just he's such a piece of shit that I just love him so much. He's so terrible. He's such a toxic, piece of crap. But he's always consistent with that, so I love it. And my favorite scene, actually, which kind of I had forgotten about, was when Vic comes in there for the rescue. Although Shane was doing pretty good, I think. I think he was okay. He probably could have gotten out of that. But when Aceveda and Vic come in and with a bunch of unis and rescue Shane, and he's like, "Hey, next time I'll save you," and he's like, "Yeah, next time I'll let you." And you can see that the tension from the previous episode and from Vic worrying about whether he's going to lose Shane to go back to Vice and stuff like that. I mean, there's lots of great scenes in this episode, but I like that one where it's the two buddy cops are reunited, especially everything that has already happened and everything that we know will happen. So I like that, just a genuine, Vic was genuinely worried about Shane, and Shane kind of hey Dad, you don't have to worry so much about me, but it makes me happy that you do. So
cool. All right, so ratings out of 10. I'm going to give this episode an 8. Let's go in the same order, please.
7 from me. I can't really give it any more than that. But having said that, a 7 for this is, would be, a 10 for anything else. It's just, a bad episode of this is still better than a good episode.
I wouldn't call it a bad episode. You might call it a weaker episode.
Yeah, a weaker episode. Yeah,
no such thing as a bad episode of The Shield.
But if it's but if you're going to measure, good, average, bad, even this series at its worst is still better than your Common or Garden TV show. It still excels. But I'm only rating this in terms of what I've rated the other episodes previously. Sure. So, so 7 for this in comparison to the previous episode, in comparison to episode 3. So,
Northern.
Maybe 6.5 out of 10, because there was a lot I forgot about this episode. And
5? Can't get 5 out of 10.
6.5.
Oh, all right. Lay off.
Yeah, it's mostly because it was a bit more forgettable with a few good moments, but It's not terrible. It's not terrible. It just wasn't my favourite.
Okay, Darth.
I take my hat off for the last episode, partners. I take that hat and I put it back on for this episode.
Okay,
So
but you're not wearing a
going
hat. I just need to point out, there's no. I can't see no hat anymore.
I'm being meta. The last episode was a 10. This episode, compared to the last episode, not even close. I can't. Yeah, 7.
Okay, 7. Tox.
I give it a solid 9. I don't know what, I mean, it's like I said, it's really plot heavy because it's got to set up everything on the back half of this season, but I don't have any particular problem with it. I mean, again, unless that weirdo Pet Cemetery guy comes back, I don't understand the point of that very much. But I mean, it's not, even if he doesn't, and you and I are misremembering it, it doesn't make the episode bad in any way.
No, I quite liked that scene because it was quite funny to see Danny suddenly get hopeful, like, oh, this is a really sweet guy. I might come back. I might come back this way again, and then that illusion is pretty quickly shattered.
She really she's just bad luck Danny with with dudes, man. They're either married or psychos or something, man. It's always something with her. But yeah, no, I just I think it's a good episode. I liked Claudette coming in with the win and how she's very gracious with her partner and understanding, I mean, she and not in a condescending way, she just kind of she opens up on him in the heat of the moment, and then she feels bad about it and she kind of makes good on it, and she's does what she does best. The stuff with Acevedo, like I mentioned, was great. I'm good with the whole thing. I like the fact that Acevedo, he did, in fact, I mean, if push had come to shove, I think Acevedo would have sold Danny out. And I think to a certain degree he does in some ways, but he did go find this other, quote unquote witness and kind of put the kibosh on that BS. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. But overall, I think it's a good episode. I think it's just as good as the previous one, and it sets up a lot of things that, we need to have for not only the rest of the season but the rest of the series.
Yeah,
if I can offer a thought.
No, I'm sorry. Time's up. No, go ahead.
Okay, if I can offer a point, and that is about the guys burying the animals. I think what they're trying to illustrate here is that this is Los Angeles, and there's all kinds of people you're going to run into, and some of them are weirdos. I think that's what they're trying to illustrate.
It is a town full of crazy people. I mean, I was walking along the street in daylight when, because I lived there for 3 months, and this transsexual came up and started speaking to me, and then just out of my eye line, I saw another one coming round the back, and they had a fucking bottle raised. They were about to bash me over the head, and they were both going to try and mug me, and I was like, what the fuck? I stepped out of their way, and because I saw her, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I actually stopped and talked to you because I could see the first one was a proper drug addict. Her nose was running and everything. And I said, and I treated you like a human being. What are you guys going to try and do for me doing that? You're going to try and mug me. Thanks for that. Great impression. Well done. Proper had a go at them. They really caught them off guard. It was kind of funny. But yes. So I can verify from firsthand it's full of quite strange characters. And and that was in 2004.
Yeah, they're kind of pushing the stereotype that they're mentally ill out there even more.
I think the point of the episode was to say, yeah, these people exist, but nobody interacts with them more than the police.
Yeah,
they meet people more than we do. And honestly, we should kind of be grateful for that.
Yeah, nobody interacts with them more than the police or Lance, because weirdos naturally gravitate towards him. So, okay, great. Now, a couple of things. So we were talking about Carl Weathers' character earlier and how he, in fact, served in the police force in the 70s, and I've just found out which unit show was responsible for making me believe that all Los Angeles police officers were awesome, lovely guys. Yeah. So
those weren't LA. To be fair, those weren't LAPD.
Sorry, so you cut out partly then. Say that again.
To be fair, those guys weren't LAPD. That was California Highway.
Yeah, California Highway Patrol are different, but yeah, I mean, of course, they're completely uncorrupt.
It was probably the
yeah. Anyway, so now next Saturday, Inside Man and I have a Chew the Fat special on Sweeney 2, but Inside Man, I may have to move that to the same time Friday. Can you still do that?
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
So just to remind people, we're going to be now. I actually want to do both movies. So okay. I want to do Sweeney 1 and 2. Here's a clip from Sweeney 2 for people who haven't seen it.
Cool, look at that. Shouldn't be allowed. Look, there's another one, look.
Why don't you belt up? I'm a member of Scotland Yard's famous flying squad.
This is Detective Sergeant.
This one they used an Inside Man.
Hear and that? They got him.
Yeah. So Sweeney 1 and 2 we're going to do.
Excellent.
Next. And I own Sweeney 2. I got the Blu-ray, but I'm going to need to watch Sweeney 1 again. Although I watched it not that long ago. So
get your pants on, son. You're next.
So we're going to wrap it up there, guys, because I'm still got a bit of a cough. Don't want to talk for too much longer. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be doing this again in theory next Sunday. Any week that I can't manage, we'll just put it back a week because I do have some commitments coming up. But hopefully we should be able to keep most Sunday evenings free. So, yeah, just to say to people, if you haven't watched this show, you absolutely should. It's an absolutely fantastic piece of work. And even a weaker episode is still fantastic television. Just reminds me to say thanks to my 4 panelists for flying in. Your personal helicopters now await you to take you back home. And thanks to everyone in the chat for watching, especially Wormy Spoons and the Proctophile, who've been keeping chat entertained with a huge conversation that's been going on, nothing to do with the Shield. But they've managed to maintain that conversation for almost the entire stream. So I am quite impressed with your dedication there, guys. Until then.
Films, TV shows from back in